Hello. So this week I got a little curious about what health benefits reading might have. So I started hunting down any studies I could find that were on the topic and figured I'd share what I found with everyone. Obviously, reading a lot has predictable impacts on a person's vocabulary. I don't quite understand why a lot of the articles mention that because no shit. Fortunately, most of the studies I found didn't actually care about the obvious and looked at more complicated topics. So let's get into it. So the first that I really liked was a study talking about theory of mind, which is, in short, someone's ability to empathize with others, to consider other perspectives beyond their own in a given situation. And this study found that there were temporary enhancements to a subject's theory of mind, and more broadly, it suggested that theory of mind is influenced by engaging with works of art. This is a pretty handy thing that everyone could use a little more of. If everyone were capable of considering other people's perspectives in a situation, I'm pretty sure we'd have a less problematic world. Moving on from that, though, the rest of the studies I want to talk about have more direct impact on a person's health. Theory of mind is great and all, but that doesn't really have a lot to do with health. Stress, for example, creates the hormone cortisol, and in short, cortisol is bad. Well, it performs useful functions, but too much of it is a problem because it increases blood pressure, heart rate, it slows metabolism, increases muscle tension. All these things are probably not great for someone who wants to live a long time to be experiencing a lot of. This study in particular found that reading had similar effects on stress to activities like yoga. And that's a pretty promising result. I suspect that this study actually has something to do with the results of the next study I want to talk about, and that's lifespan. Now, reading a lot isn't going to make you immortal, but this study suggests that it does impact how long a person lives. In addition to the study I just talked about, decreasing stress, this study found that reading has a pretty marked impact on cognitive decline. While this one doesn't address the stress, I imagine it's related to the results they found, which is that readers live for an average of 2 years longer than non-readers. Now, these are, of course, just averages, so it's not going to be the same for everyone. And 2 years isn't really a huge amount of time, but considering that 2-year bump in lifespan is associated with just reading, that's kind of impressive. So while the lifespan study looked at cognitive decline, the next study is looking at neural connectivity, which is to say it's basically a more focused study on the direct effects of reading instead of the long-term impacts on a person's life. This study found a couple of interesting things. The first is that it temporarily increases a reader's ability to consider other perspectives, which brings us back to the theory of mind study, but found that that decayed fairly rapidly. On the other hand, the study found that there was a long-term change in connectivity between neurons, showing that there's a lasting impact in a reader's brain from reading. This is particularly interesting because of the last study that I want to talk about today, and that's dementia. So this study was less taking MRIs than the last and more observing real people's lives. It had about 1,000 people in it, which isn't the biggest sample size, but it's decent. I think more work definitely needs to be done on the topic. And this study found that the dementia risk was lower for people that had hobbies, including reading. It doesn't go into a great deal of detail for why. I suspect that the researchers haven't really looked into that yet, and that other studies will be more focused on that. But it shows that keeping the mind active has a marked impact on a person's likelihood to have dementia in their later years. And that's pretty encouraging. If it only takes simple things like making sure you stay active in life, having hobbies, for this channel's particular interest, reading, there's a decreased chance of having dementia issues. After looking into these studies for a week or so, it seems to show that reading has a pretty strong impact on a person's health. Not only the obvious impacts to a person's brain and their neural connectivity, but also less obvious ones like decreased stress. And a less stressed person is likely to live longer. So the moral of the story is read more books. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If not, a dislike. And let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.